makes the kick to win it. Oh! Blocked! The Chiefs have won! The Chiefs have won!
I mean, wow, what a way to end the weekend for Kansas City sports area fans. Chiefs on a nail-biter field goal, last-second block there to survive the weekend. And fellas, that's literally what this weekend is about, is KU Chiefs. They survived the weekend. Games that we probably had business losing, we pull it out. But welcome into KC Sports Authority podcast. Keegan Russell, JB Merker, Austin Ecker, and Spencer Gray with you today. And that's right, we're going to talk Chiefs. We're going to talk KU football, KU basketball, a little bit of KU women's soccer. Got a lot to cover because, man, it was a big weekend all around for the local sports team. So if you're watching the show over here on YouTube, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button below. Give us that thumbs up on the episode so other Chiefs, Royals, KU fans like yourself can find the podcast. And if you are one of our 1,000+ subscribers, thank you so much for your support so far. You can also hit us up on any of our social medias at KCSA Pod and give us a follow over there. Well, fellas, let's start with the Chiefs game. I mean, it's not often you see a walk-off blocked field goal to end the game. It's typically a walk-off game-winning field goal. But the Chiefs get it done just by inches, getting that fingertip block there to survive the Denver Broncos. Chiefs are 9-0, and the rest of the NFL says this is the worst 9-0 team. There's some so I think I could agree with parts of that because we definitely played our C- game today all around, and nobody can get it done, guys. Nobody can beat the Chiefs. Nobody can find a way to knock us off, even when we should be having a down-on-year quote compared to what other teams do. But 9-0, they survive the missed field goal. Thoughts on this game? Who wants to kick us off?
Man, I'll start. I just got to say this. I understand why people might say that we are undeserving of this win, that we might be a fraudulent team, that we don't really look like a 9-0 team. Because I would agree. I don't think we look fully like a 9-0 team. Man, but we just keep finding a way to get it done. That's what the media's been saying. That's what we've been saying. And honestly, that's just what the football gods have been saying, is that we just find a way to get it done every single time. And to me, we've just added a notch to that belt of, in some of our games, it's, oh, we win in overtime. Some of our games, oh, we win a coin flip. Some of our games, we block field goals. Okay, so I think for me, it's a testament overall to our defense, because let's be honest, our defense has won us a majority of our games this season because just no one can really rack up points against us. I mean, these one-score games, if you look back at history, they're going to catch up with us. But the fact that we're 9-0 now, I think, I don't know, it kind of makes me feel good in the sense that we're all but locked in for a playoff spot, right? Fingers crossed. We're all but locked in, and in a way, you kind of hoped that we would have lost this game just so it can kind of teach us a lesson or two. But I think the mentality of our team is the mentality of winners, and I think even winners can learn from a poor performance just like this. And I think we can just keep on winning. So I'm just ecstatic. I was laughing so hard I was losing my voice. I'm glad we waited like an hour to record this, because I would have been coughing.
Need some water?
I need some. I need some right over here. Grab it through the screen. Just incredible game, but only for like the final 5 seconds.
Yeah, because honestly, most of that game, I know the score is very low scoring, 16-14, but the Broncos, outside of maybe 5 or 6 defensive plays, they were moving the ball pretty well.
Yeah.
Secondary was giving up. I mean, Cortland Sutton was torching McDuffie for most of the game, it felt like, and they were finding ways to get the ball down the field. Bo Nix, I mean, I told you guys, I was seconds away from tweeting out Bo Nix for Rookie of the Year if he beats Mahomes, because nobody else can do it. And then, sure enough, Block field goal ends the game. Chiefs win 16-14. They hang on to improve to 9-0. Offense didn't look great. Offensive line was on skates. Mahomes was running for his life, as he has done a lot this year. They still moved the ball pretty effectively for most of this game. Run game was a little bit slower, but Travis Kelce and DeAndre Hopkins found plenty of space. Mahomes gets a few big runs here and there, as he always does. But credit to the Broncos defense. I think they were right up there with the Chiefs as the two of the top 3 defenses in the league. You know, they are second in the NFL in sacks, and I think by the time this weekend's over, they might be first. So this was a defensive game all around. The over-under for this game was 42.5, and I think if you bet that, this was an easy one at 30. Yeah, despite the offensive struggles and despite the defense giving up a few plays here and there, Chiefs, as always, find a way to get it done. Nobody can beat this team. Does not matter if you play your A game, your A-plus game. We find a way to get it done despite the fact that we have injuries all over. A left tackle goes out. You play your rookie who's getting burned left and right. Kareem Hunt goes out for a few plays. Hopkins misses a play or two. But Chiefs still find a way to get it done. Mahomes does what he does best and wins games late. I thought this game was going to be somewhat of a gotcha game right before the Bills. Now I think the Chiefs are the most focused team in the league with the way they prepare. But the Broncos definitely came out today to show that the 5-5 record they have, they're a solid team. Sean Payton's turned that team around pretty quick. But I don't have really a lot of other thoughts on this game. If you guys have anything else to throw out there, go for it. Otherwise, we'll move on to the Hawks.
Well, I'll say this. Keegan, you said that nobody can beat the Chiefs. Well, we got the Buffalo Bills next week, and I'm a little bit scared about that game. Just being on the road in Buffalo, I mean, that could be our first losses. I was kind of looking at the schedule before the season started. I was like, okay, if we start off undefeated, which I had them starting undefeated this season, and I even had them at 9-0 at one point. But, I mean, I think with them going to Buffalo next week, it's going to be a very tough game. And that could very well be the first, loss of the season for the Chiefs. But, hey, we'll see. But I will, Bo Nix, though, on the other hand, even though he didn't win this football game, I think he is one of the best rookies out there this league. And, him and Jalon Daniels are the top 2, in terms of like the rookie of the year race. I have to give him credit. He looked incredible today. So give credit where credit's due. He got the Broncos to move the ball up and down the field and he tried to get them in a position to win. And, I mean, because as I was kind of, getting ready to watch that field goal happen, I was like, if we block it, I'd be shocked. I kind of was thinking about it in the back of my head. I was like, there's no way, right? But then there's that Tennessee-Alabama game a long time ago where, like, Tennessee was getting ready to upset Alabama in their own place, and Alabama blocked that field goal. I don't remember what year it was. But then, sure enough, that happened, and it was just a big sigh of relief. And I just, I'm still trying to process it. I really am. But tough game next week, so we'll find out, how good this team really is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
that's a tough environment.
I got a question for Spencer right here. Spencer, what was better? Be honest. What was better? Watching the blocked field goal from the Chiefs or watching North Carolina miss that 3 at the end that all but secured, KU winning the game? What's better for you as a fan?
Well, I'd say the block kick because I know a step back off balance 3 is probably not going in. I thought for sure the field goal was going to go right down the middle. And I watched it with my mom, and she was like, she's like, I didn't know you were allowed to block kicks. And I was like, yeah, you are. It just doesn't happen a whole lot. So I was definitely more happy for that because it was a lot more unexpected because that was a really well defended 3-pointer at the end of the game. So I was pretty confident that wasn't going anywhere.
It's like, why do you think everyone's lined up on the field? Like, just to look pretty? Like, no, block the kick.
Shout out Spencer's mom getting recognition on the podcast.
Absolutely.
Transition though there, since JB brought it up, let's go back to Friday night in the field house. KU versus North Carolina, clash of the blue bloods, probably 2 of the oldest, most reputable, best blue bloods in college basketball. I know there's an argument there for UCLA, Duke. I think this is the top 2 programs in college basketball history. The history between the 2 programs, there's just so many connections and ties over the last 60, 70 years, 80 years that I think this game was just awesome to have at the beginning of the year. Glad that it wasn't a neutral site game. But KU does survive. Again, that's the theme of this weekend is survive in advance. KU survives 92-89 on that last-second three-point attempt by North Carolina. Hunter almost got the block on it. Nothing like a 7'2" guy trying to catch up to a point guard to get the final shot off. North Carolina completely dropped the ball there on that final play, not getting it to RJ Davis's hands. But yeah, there's a lot to get into about this game. I mean, it started out with North Carolina. As I fully expected, North Carolina came out strong the first 4, 5, 6 minutes, jumps out to an early lead. You see the line shift automatically. So I picked up KU, I think, plus 1.5 at one point in the first 10 minutes. And then KU just went scorched earth for a while. It was KJ Adams immediately. It was Hunter early. It was Zeke Mayo hitting shots early. AJ Storr got involved. I mean, we saw everybody kind of have a play in this game in the first half, and it was a 20-point lead at halftime or something like that. It was a big. I mean, this was blowout alert, and then just like the national championship a few years ago, this time North Carolina decides to pull a Kansas and make the.
They didn't do
comeback.
It as fast.
Not as fast, but that second half, I mean, man, they really turned the tides of that game really quickly. KU was missing a lot of shots, forcing turnovers. North Carolina was playing excellent defense, hitting a lot of shots, but of course, KU still gets it done, 92-89. Hunter goes for 20 and 10. KJ 14 points. Zeke, of course, 21 points off the bench, hits 3 threes. AJ Storr has his best game so far, 13 points in 27 minutes. I'll kick it back to you guys, though. Who wants to go first on thoughts on this game? Now, Spencer, I'm going to have to ask you in a minute about the second half meltdown, of course. But whoever wants to kick off thoughts on this survival, go for it.
Well, I just want to get Austin's thoughts on this because, we talk so much about Hunter and how important he is to the team. Yeah. We talk so much about Hunter and how he should be able to lead us to a national title. And in the final 2 minutes of the game, all 4 of us in our podcast group chat are screaming over text, get Hunter out of this game. Like, what in the – I don't know. Maybe we were all just emotional, but I don't think so. I mean, I was watching him just having no hustle whatsoever, missing shots that he should have made, not getting up on defense like he should, and it was very frustrating. I honestly, I looked at the box score and I couldn't believe he got 20. So I'm like, man, where did those 20 points come from? Because it certainly wasn't in the final 2 minutes. Okay, he got that final shot that we needed, but it certainly wasn't in the final 2 minutes. What's going on with Hunter, man? I mean, what do you think? What do you think is the issue, or is there an issue at all? I don't. Maybe I'm overreacting.
I don't know. I mean, he's coming off of that injury, so he could be, trying to get back in shape and all those things. So that's number one. Number two, when I was kind of seeing the last minutes of the second half unfold, I mean, the student section was like, get him out of the game. We don't want to see him out there. There was a group of guys standing next to me just screaming. They called a timeout, and they were just screaming at the bench to get Hunter out of the game. And I think some of the guys on the bench were even looking in our direction like, oh, they're not happy. But, yeah, it's like his ability to, run up and down the court, I don't know. I didn't see a whole lot of effort from him trying to block shots or trying to get the rebounds and all that. So, I mean, for everybody to be a little bit upset, I mean, it was definitely valid. But, I mean, he came up clutch late and, knocked down one of those 2 free throws. We needed him to knock down 2 of them to really, feel good about the ending. But luckily we were able to hang on. But, I mean, it's going to take some time, I think, for Hunter to get his stamina back. And I'm sure, as he plays more throughout the season, he'll be full go. But, I mean, as I kind of think about it now, I think it's just him coming back from his injury and just ramping up that stamina, I think.
So I got to get some takes off about Hunter here because I was back and forth with a few people on Twitter after the game. And the wild thing about Hunter's play is you can look at the box. There's two versions of it. There's the box score and then there's the game film. The box score, you go, yes, 20 and 10 in 29 minutes, 6 and 9 from the free throw line, which is really good. 7 for 15 from the floor, 50% essentially. Misses his 2 threes, gets 3 assists, 1 block, but has the 4 fouls. You look at that and you go, all right, that's a pretty productive night. Yep, Hunter Dickinson, double-double, great. But then you watch the game, and I tweeted about this, said there's at least 5 or 6 times throughout the game that you go, you got to get Hunter out. Like he is causing a possession change here that's flipping advantage to the other team, whether it's defensively not moving his feet quick enough in the pick and roll, letting the guy get around him to the bucket. It's the lazily trying to put up a little turnaround 5-foot hook shot floater. And he had this, we talked about going into this game that he was going to have the size advantage massively. And now they did double team him quite a bit, but like, you watch parts of the game and you go, oh my gosh, this is a 7'2" clumsy guy that is not athletic. He can't jump. He can't dunk. He doesn't move his feet quick, but he's skilled. And I think this year, because of Flory Badunga coming off the bench and his athleticism, I think you're going to see more of what you were saying, Austin, where fans are going, hey, we've got a guy on the bench that can run and gun with this. Now, again, Flory only played 11 minutes, and I'm going to be honest, there were a few moments where he looked gassed and tired, but when Hunter late in the first half, when Hunter went out with the 2 fouls, but Flory still only got 11 minutes, and I thought that was very surprising considering he was incredibly efficient. 8 points, 3 of 4 shooting, 8 points, 8 rebounds, 4 offensive rebounds, 4 defensive rebounds. That massive block. He had like 3 blocks. Only one of them counted, but he had the massive volleyball spike and then the one where he just jumps up and catches the ball. And you look at that and you go, all right, I could see points of this game where that athleticism plays and that athleticism should be on the court over Hunter. Now, that doesn't mean Hunter's not a skilled player, but it's something about the eye test of Hunter. I could sit there and point multiple times throughout the game that his play on the court cost us a possession on the offensive end or the defensive end multiple times. Now, it's not to say that Hunter is a bad player or that Flory would be the correct player in those situations, but I think you're going to get a lot of fans clamoring for Flory's athleticism in that type of game when clearly North Carolina in that second half, they were attacking the paint, they were getting there quick. Hunter was not getting positioned very well offensively. They were double teaming him. They were forcing KU into bad spots. And I felt like that second half, we should have seen more Flory kind of in and out with that lineup there, and we didn't. So that's my take. I said to another guy, it's a lot like DeJuan. Like you can look DeJuan's box score and you can watch the game. And based on what DeJuan's box score says, like DeJuan went 10 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 5 of 8 shooting, but he had the 4 fouls and he only had 3 assists. So DeJuan, same thing, he could have a decent box score, but you can also watch the game and go, this wasn't one of his best games. Now, I don't think he played poorly. A lot of those missed assists are guys that just missed open shots. But I think both of those guys, you can see the frustrations on where they're missing for you when you've got guys on the bench that you think you could play in their spot. And that was a lot of the talk coming into this year was, is KU going to be any better when Hunter, KJ, and DeJuan are sharing the floor? Because all of last year that was a problem. This year, of course, you've got a guy like Zeke Mayo that can hit knockdown threes. You've got a guy like Rylan Griffin that's athletic enough to attack the basket on a cut or shoot a corner three. You got Diggy with it, as I've been saying to people, we need an NIL shirt on that ASAP. And then for me, the big game changer, though, this year is AJ Storr. I think I can think of 3 possessions specifically where into the shot clock, he gets the ball and just goes one-on-one downhill and either gets the bucket, gets a foul, or is able to dish it off to somebody. So I think that's just that's going to help overlook some of these issues. But against a top 10 team like North Carolina, first half, North Carolina looked like a team that shouldn't be in the top 25. And then second half, they looked like the second best team in the country because they're slowing us down and making things look like. But KU does survive. Spencer, I want to ask you about the second half because you said that's where you were paying the most attention. What do you think went wrong in that second half that allowed North Carolina to get back in this and basically make this a nail-biter down the stretch?
Yeah, I think it was a couple of things. There was a lot of possessions on the defensive end, a lot of breakdowns, and as you mentioned, Hunter definitely was a perpetrator in some of those. I definitely think shot selection got a little wonky. Possessions, the pace of the game kind of went up and down. We weren't really controlling it very well. There was a lot of fouls, a lot of guys getting to the rim, kind of ticky-tack fouls, giving them an and one. And when you have this kind of team that's so explosive and versatile offensively, unfortunately, this is going to be a very hot and cold offense. We have the privilege of having a lot of shot creators. You have guys like Zeke and AJ that can score on pretty much all 3 levels. And that gives you convenience of, okay, shot clock's running down. We have guys who can go get a bucket, but you're also going to run into instances where they don't, shot selection becomes a problem, or they're taking tough shots, or they're missing tough shots. And I think the thing with Hunter is, I'm always think didn't I say something about people overreacting? I can't remember if I had an opinion about that or an estimate. So I'll the thing I'll say about Hunter is there's going to be a couple things that people need to keep in mind. Number one, he is what he is. He's an offensive technician in the post. He's not a defensive big. He's not a guy that's going to get you a bunch of block shots. He's not a guy that's going to be able to guard in the perimeter really well, although he did on that last possession, did a very good job there. So we just have to adjust our expectations on what he's going to do. I think you need minutes management for him. I think maybe giving him a break a little bit late in the fourth quarter at between maybe the 10 and 5 minute mark, let him sit for a little bit, come back in and have a lot of energy to finish out the game. Or you go offense, defense, and switch him out on a couple possessions with Flory. Because here's what Hunter does give you. He has our best ATO play. Right after the timeouts are going to come in that little diamond formation. KJ's going to clear the weak side. Hunter's going to seal his guy.
Oh, that was beautiful.
It's every single time. So he gives
us
our
classic.
play, and he gives us. You saw what happens down the stretch. What happens is they're going to dump it down to him. They're either going to let him go one-on-one on the post, or after 2 dribbles, they're going to double. And now we have shooters. We have guys you can kick it out, and if they don't close out very well, get an open 3. If they close out too hard, we got guys that can get to the rim, get a bucket. So that's what he's going to give us. It's going to be definitely a trade-off, and we're going to have to live with these defensive breakdowns because he does give us a lot on the offensive end, even if shot selection, again, can cause friction in the game. Because, again, when you have a dominant big, that causes you play a very slow tempo with that when you dump it into the post and you let them go to work. And when we're in a rhythm, when we're going in fast breaks, especially with a guy that doesn't run up and down the floor very well, that's going to cause some conflict on the offensive end. So I think the best thing we can do is manage his minutes, play Flory very strategically, because Flory's a guy. I mean, even if he was gassed, you can tell the guy's got energy. The guy's, a guy that can jump out of the gym at any time of the game, even if he does have tired legs. And I think KJ is a very good, kind of guy to play next to him, because even though he's not a shooter, we've talked about his deficiencies, he is a guy that has energy, that will move his feet, that will, hustle on defense. So, I think the second half we had our struggles, but to me, the important part is, yes, we blew a lead, but we didn't lose the game and we kept composure. And this team last year, we would have not been able to hold on at the end. I can almost guarantee you we would have lost that game as soon as we blew a lead. This team really had good composure coming down the stretch after giving up such a big lead. So that's a very good, positive thing.
Yeah. And it's funny, I'm complaining about Hunter here, but in reality, he only played 29 minutes, which Bill Self said, hey, we got to ideally keep him around 30, 27 to 30, 31, 32 on other nights. So in reality, he did meet that. It's just, I think it's very obvious that when a play breaks down, that's Hunter's fault. You can see it. And when you've got a guy in the bench and Flory that might be the most athletic, best incoming, most ready to play freshman big we've had in quite a while, it just has you wondering what is the ceiling of this team if they were to interchange those guys a little bit more. Or heck, I thought even in that game you could have played KJ at the 5 a little bit more and went with the long athletic guards, because a guy that didn't get a lot of run time in this was Rylan Griffin. And not that he had a bad game. I think it was more of they were riding with AJ Storr, because Storr played 27 minutes and Zeke played 29. So somebody's got to sit, because it's not going to be DeJuan. But I thought they had some opportunities there to get Griffin more involved in the lineups, or play KJ at the 5. But Austin, I want to ask you this, being at the game yourself, over the years, there's been a lot of anticipated games. We were texting about this Friday as well. For me, it doesn't get any more exciting than the triple overtime Buddy Hield game or the Kentucky game that year, because those were two of the biggest student games I can remember, where we were definitely overpacked for both games. And it was like, if you left your seat to go to the bathroom, you were kicked out and you weren't coming back. I remember being at one of these, my wife was going to the bathroom and the guy came up and he's like, you guys, and I was like, no, she's literally here. She just went to the bathroom. They're like, nope, saving seats. And I was like, she's literally here in the bathroom. Give her a second to come back. I saw videotape of that game where pregame it looked like they were forcing students into spots around the stadium because there was no room, and now they were creating standing room behind the press row. So for you, where does this rank as far as not just fan attendance but electric atmosphere in the games that you've been to, or games over the last 10, 15 years?
Well, I mean, this game for me is number one. I mean, because my first game – well, here's the thing. My first game ever at Allen Fieldhouse was the 2021-2022 season against Tarleton State. Okay. And I had never been to the Fog before, so I can't really put any of those other games on my list, unfortunately. I wish I could have been there for all of that. But
were you at UConn last year?
Say that again?
Were you at UConn last year?
Yes, I was. I'd have to put UConn. I mean, like, because for me, it was the Tech game during the Natty year when they went to double overtime. That was number one for me. UConn right now for me in like games that I've been to at Allen Fieldhouse is number 3, right behind that Tech game and now this North Carolina game. I have to say, you mentioned the students getting kicked out for leaving and going to their spots. I mean, yeah, they filed us in like cram packed. I mean, I don't even think I was sitting in a seat. I was sitting in half a seat. But I mean, that's kind of been my experience at the Fog, over the past 3.5 years. I mean, last year, I remember being at the Houston game and I had to get up and go to the bathroom. And I think we were sitting down for like 30 minutes. And one of the security guys was like, saying, hey, you can't save spots. And my friend was trying to save me a spot. And luckily enough, I was able to make it back to my seat. But, I mean, students weren't – like, not all of them got into the game. I saw and heard some people say that they were at max capacity and they had to leave.
Oh, no.
I know. Yeah, it kind of, broke my heart for them because they got to miss out on what I thought was a once-in-a-lifetime, game. I mean, because it's not every day that you get to see North Carolina come play at the Fog. I mean, you got to be there for that game, right? So, yeah, the seating situation is definitely a problem, and I hate how they cram us up all in the student section. But I mean, at least I got to be there for the game, and it was incredible.
I feel like a parent right now. I feel like I have to be that parent that says, "Oh, you have to go to the bathroom? Sorry, you're holding it. You got to hold it."
No, yeah, they don't let up. They don't like the security guys are unfortunately. I was gonna say something like an explicit word, but that's how they are. They're a-holes. I mean, they're like screaming at us to like squeeze in and everything. And it's like we don't have any room to breathe. Like, come on, like have some common sense, okay? So I actually did have to go to the bathroom like right before the game started. I waited until like 30 minutes before tip to do that because I just didn't want to have to deal with any of that. But it is unfortunate that not all the students who had tickets and everything can get into the game. But it was an electric atmosphere, though. I had a lot of fun.
Anybody else got any other takeaways from Friday night's game? We got 2 games in.
Ooh.
Obviously, Zeke Mayo can shoot it. Wasn't the most efficient shooter Friday night. He had a couple that were in and out, so I think he could have gone 5 for 9 from 3. But yeah, other takeaways you guys have on the season so far, especially going up against a not so good team to start the season and then one of the best teams in the country to get going.
I feel like watching this game, especially during when the part where we were really pulling ahead and creating a massive lead and getting to that 20-point lead, I was watching us. I was just like, man, we look so good. We don't have any holes. It feels like, it felt so relieving to watch this game and watching Zeke Mayo hit a big 3, watching KJ grab a board and just dunk it home. Like, it's like, I think I'm watching this game and I'm just like, man, we have playmakers that we didn't have last year. We knew that going into the season, but to know it and believe in it before the season is one thing. To actually see it playing out on your screen is another. And I really feel strongly about this team. Of course, we kind of let up on the gas there for a little bit, but for me, I really, really enjoyed watching this game, especially even though that we did give up the lead. And kudos to North Carolina for coming back. We stayed tough, and that's what matters. That's what matters. I was a little bit worried about the usage of Rylan Griffin. We talked a lot about Rylan Griffin leading up to this game, and just as in our season outlooks, we talked about how he can be the X factor. He can be Mr. March. He can be the guy that's really quietly leading us in the scoring or coming close to leading us in the scoring, being I think we all had him at either 2 or 3 in scoring. And this game, it was a quiet one.
Yeah. It wasn't, and again, he went 2 for 4 from 3. I think it was more of riding the hot hand. Store looked good. He was playing well both sides of the ball. You weren't taking Zeke out because you needed that shot creation. Diggy had a lot more run than I thought he was going to get in this matchup. But yeah, overall, I don't have much complaints. Again, we're 2 games in. It was nice to see basically the full use of the bench. And we talked about that going into the matchup. We had Tyrell Reed on last week, and for those of you that missed it, you can go back and check that out over here on the YouTube. Great. It was a great episode with him. Go back and check that one out. Even though we did preview part of that game, it's still a great interview to go back and listen to. But yeah, we talked about how it was great to see everyone get in against Howard last week. And then he was curious to see, who was going to get the most minutes Friday night against North Carolina. And we saw a pretty diverse lineup. Rakis only got the 1 minute, but they went with the hot hand. So my only other takeaways, there's two things I wanted to mention. One, I thought we were excellent on RJ Davis. If you take the free throws aside from him, he played terrible. I think his stat line was 3 for 15 from the floor, 1 for 7 from 3. Still got 16 points, but again, 9 of that was from the free throw line. So I thought we did a really, really good job honing in on him. Of course, that meant other guys had to step up, and they did have guys step up, Trimble being one of them. And personally, that was my prediction. I said, we'll hold RJ to a bad game, but Seth Trimble will go off. So that was excellent to see. But my other, concern, I guess, early is North Carolina shot 31 free throws in that game.
Ooh,
KU has 33 combined between the two games. They had 16 free throws in the first game, only 17 attempts in that game. And I want to say like 6 or 7 of them came in the last 4 or 5 minutes. So that was a little bit of concern. First half, there wasn't really a need to get to the free throw line. But when you're starting to struggle offensively and you're not hitting shots, I think you got to find a way to attack the paint and get more physical. So I'd love to see that get a little bit better moving forward, because as we've said before, the schedule does not get any easier. It gets even harder as we continue. We've got Michigan State coming up this week in the Champions Classic. We got Duke not too long after that. So I want to get into the Champions Classic talk here for just a few minutes before we move to KU football. Champions Classic, I still think, is one of the more exciting nights of college basketball, but I think it's also losing its star power excitement because of these other games happening at the beginning of the year. KU North Carolina at home, the NIL event with Duke out in Vegas, the Maui Invitational, all that stuff. But Champions Classic, thoughts on this game? I'm sure none of you have watched anything on Michigan State just yet. My big thing I can tell you about Michigan State is Jason Richardson's son plays there, Jace Richardson. So that's pretty cool that Tom Izzo's getting to coach one of his best players all time, coaching his son. But yeah, KU Michigan State Tuesday night, then of course Duke Kentucky. Anybody have thoughts on this upcoming matchup?
I was told that we don't have a whole lot to worry about with Michigan State this year, but I don't know how much I buy it because it's still Michigan State. It's still the Champions Classic. I think if you look at it on paper, are they not the worst ranked out of all 4 of the Champions Classic teams? I think they are.
Yeah, I'd put them in Kentucky relatively similar.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think we said it before, but anytime we're going against Tom Izzo, I actually feel a little bit more confident than I would against somebody else. And it's still a big opponent. You can't take anybody lightly, but I feel like we have Tom Izzo's number, and I don't really foresee us losing that game. But I'm interested to see if, the starting lineup is the same. This past game we went with AJ Storr on the bench, right? And I think we did that a couple times now. AJ Storr being on the bench just seems like the perfect spark plug. I mean, I don't know how you combat that. I mean, we have 6 or 7 guys that play starting minutes. It's pretty powerful, but Spencer, I was curious what your take on that was. Do you think we're going to keep AJ Storr on the bench? And if so, who even beats us? Because when you got a guy like Storr on the bench, I mean, playing like the way he is, he should be starting, but we just have so much production from our starters. I don't know. We have a chemistry going right now, at least, but what's your take there?
Yeah, I don't think it matters who starts. I think it matters who finishes games. And that's usually a better sign of who has self-trust and who he wants on there out on the court. So I don't think you're going to see very many games where Zeke and Storr are on the bench to end the game. So I think if, I'm curious to see if he keeps the same starting lineup. I mean, when we've had these rotations that it can go a couple different directions, you do see us kind of tweak it to start the season game after game. So I'm curious if he does make any adjustments. But I like having a guy, at least either Zeke or Storr coming off the bench. I don't want them both starting because I like having that firepower off the bench. And again, as long as they finish games, it really doesn't matter. So I'm curious to see that. Tom Izzo, obviously, it doesn't matter how average his team is, he usually seems to be able to get wins when he needs them. So
They
that'll be
play good
interesting.
defense. They're always a
Um,
tough defensive team.
That's right.
Now they don't have AJ Hogarth anymore.
Right.
But
Finally.
Jaden Adkins is their leader, their senior leader. They've got good guards. They always do. I think KU will still have the advantage down low, physical game. Both teams have good depth. Both teams can spread the ball out. So I think it'll be fun. Bill Self's really good in these matchups. I don't have it off the top of my head now what his record is in the Champions Classics, but he's very good in these games. I think only one of them was I want to say one of the Kentucky games in the last several years was a pretty bad beat down. But outside of that, but these games are always really close. Izzo, I think each year he gets a little bit worse. Michigan State is a blue blood of sorts, but they really haven't been that since the mid 2000s, early 2010s. So I'd still give KU the edge there. I just think the fact that we have depth and we have options to spread the ball. Like again, if Hunter struggles, you've got 4 or 5 other guys you can turn to this time. Whereas last year was if Hunter's struggling and Kevin's not playing, you better hope Furphy gets open for 4 or 5 threes, or KJ just becomes an absolute monster, which he's capable of doing. I think KJ's little jumper from the elbow is, he's like shooting 80% on that right now. I don't know how that'll hold up, but I think KU's just got a lot more options this year, which is great for these big time matchups. I think Self said it in a press conference yesterday, 2 days ago. The fact that all the NCAA violation stuff is now behind them, I think fans don't realize how significant that was when it came to recruiting. But he basically said that cut out the top 30 recruits for 6 years straight that we couldn't go after, essentially. Now you're seeing that talent. You're seeing it in the transfer portal. We said it several times now coming to the season. This might be one of our deepest teams. It might be a team we have the most options to go get a bucket. Zeke can go get a bucket any time. Store can go get a bucket. Of course, you can dump it down to Hunter. And then even when nothing's working, you can run pick and roll with KJ and get something there. Or DeJuan will get a little bunny floater. So I feel good about the matchup. Didn't want to dive much into that because it's so early in the season. I don't think you can really come up with a lot of takes just yet. But yeah, Michigan State coming up and then Duke not too long after that. So it might be another week or so until we talk KU basketball. But before we end, we got to switch gears here. I guess first off, before we switch to that one, another survive and advance this weekend. Austin, I'll give you the floor for this one. KU women's soccer, Big 12 champions. How about that?
Whoa.
Good weekend for KU athletics this weekend.
I mean, I was telling you all this right before we went on air. I mean, like, we had no business winning that Big 12 tournament. We really didn't. There were a lot of good teams in that tournament. I mean, Texas Tech and TCU are both really good. And for Kansas to knock them both off, in the semi and then the final game, I mean, it's impressive. And having having that, new head coach, first year winning the Big 12 tournament is pretty special. And I believe he's the first Big 12 coach to come in his first year and win the Big 12 tournament. So that's
Wow.
huge. I mean, it's incredible. I'm not sure what the NCAA tournament schedule is going to look like, and I don't know where KU is going to go. But, man, if we have a tournament game at Rock Chalk Park, I'm definitely going to be there. That's going to be a game that I'm definitely going to have to go watch for sure. But, yeah, I was ecstatic when I found out that they had won. I mean, it was – I didn't get to watch most of it. I saw some of it. But I heard that, TCU was trying to find their way back into it, and Kansas just somehow hung on and won the thing. And it's incredible. I mean, it's a testament to what they're trying to do over there in the soccer program. And it's a bright future ahead. I mean, their previous head coach, he had been there the entire time since the program started, right? And nobody really knew how this first year under a new head coach was going to go, and won the Big 12 tournament. I mean, that's so special.
To add to the magnitude of that win, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but were we not the 6th seed in that tournament?
We were, yeah.
Guys, we were the 6th seed. We were
not expected to win the tournament, not voted to win the tournament, not picked to win the tournament.
Yeah, nowhere close. And we came out with a big win, and the ladies got it done. I mean, it was some great news for KU fans to see that. I mean, we're not just a one-sport school. I know, football has had its ups. Yeah, we're multi-sport. I mean, we've talked about our football program up and down, of course, these last 2 seasons. But we're already coming back up with that big win over Iowa State, which we can talk about too.
Yeah.
But wow, what a performance!
Yeah, shout out KU women's soccer, and then also quick shout out KU women's volleyball, also top 10 in the country, 20-1 on the season. They just go and win night in, night out. They're impressive. So fall sports at KU, again, football record's not where it should be, but the eye test is getting better in KU football, as we'll get into in a second. But yeah, fall sports for KU off to a great start. So shout out all of those there. But yeah, let's finish with KU football. Guys, the question is KU football back? Are we back? 45 to 36 win over Iowa State. They were a 2.5 point underdog to a top 25 team. We have had no care to talk about KU football the last few weeks because they just continue to disappoint at the end of games. Almost did it again this week, but get the pick six there to kind of in this. Devin Neal, of course, breaks the all-time rushing record, which we'll save that for another episode. We'll dive into that completely on its own time. But KU gets it done, 45-36. Now 3-6 on the year, technically still bowl eligible. Thoughts on the game? I mean, is Jalon Daniels back too?
I think he is. Yeah. I mean, he didn't no interceptions, right? Or
12 for 24, 295. Well, see, it's funny coming into this game. Iowa State's got a really good defense, really good secondary. I think JD's over under was like 186 yards. Blew that out of the water. 295, 2 touchdowns, 12 carries, 68 yards, and a touchdown. So 3 TDs for him. He gets a long ball to Luke Grimm, a long ball to Quentin Skinner, long ball to Torrey Laughlin, long ball to Devin Neal.
There were a couple
all
drops.
around the offense. Yeah, a couple drops. Yeah. So
there were a couple drops.
I mean,
that
first
if
off,
they were not drops, they would have. I mean, this would have
been
a blowout game.
Yeah. So shout out JD. You look back. Jeff Grimes. Maybe all that crap we gave him all year. Maybe it was the rust. I don't know. It's still play calling. Still a question mark I have, but feels good to see them back in the win column and put up 45 points and see JD being a large reason as to why that happened. Also still pisses me off though that we lost to K-State because we should be sitting here minimum 4-5, but you obviously think we should have beat Illinois. We should have beat UNLV. We should probably be 8-2 on the year or 7-2 on the year. But yeah, thoughts on the game, guys? Anybody else?
Well, I'm gonna pull a JB here and be a little pessimistic, just a little bit, because I'm not being pessimistic about the game. But we have 3 tough games coming up at BYU, Colorado, and then at Baylor, which I don't believe KU has ever won in Waco before. So, I think, as much as it's exciting to beat Iowa State and those things, I mean, it still doesn't make up for the fact that we've lost the 6 games that we've lost this season. I mean, it certainly doesn't make up for it, but it gives us a good feeling temporarily. But I mean, we got 3 tough games coming up, and I don't know how they're going to go. I mean, Colorado looked really good against Texas Tech yesterday. They somehow came back and won that game. Texas Tech was up a couple of times, and then they were throwing trash on the field, and Colorado ran away with it and won the game. And then BYU, I didn't get to watch the BYU game.
BYU barely pulled it off. Utah was controlling that game up until the last minute. BYU gets bailed out with a defensive holding call when they're on like the 5-yard line and gets them down the field, get in field goal range, kick it. Now Utah did cover. I didn't put this out this week. I didn't have time to do plays, but Utah was one of my plays this week to cover, and they still did. But they should have lost that game. And KU opens up as just a 2.5 point underdog to a top 10 college football team. When was the last time KU football was less than a 3-point dog to a top 10 team on the road? Couldn't tell you. I'd have to research that. But BYU, one of the best home teams in the country, one of the toughest environments to go win at. As we saw K-State get spanked out there a couple weeks ago. BYU at night is just insanely tough. That kickoff's not till after 9 o'clock local time.
No.
So it's still going to be tough.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm worried about.
You got to feel more optimistic though now.
I mean, if this game was being played in the afternoon, I'd feel a little bit better about it for sure. But I mean, it's tough to win at BYU. Maybe if you look at what Iowa State did last year, going in there, playing at night and blowing them out. I mean, maybe we kind of look at that game. I know it was a year ago, and I know it's a completely different team that BYU has, but maybe just look at what they did and how they handled it. And Who knows? I mean, I'm only pessimistic because these next 3 games are going to be insanely tough, in my opinion. But it certainly felt nice to see them pull off an upset win yesterday. The crowd, I do want to mention the crowd real quick. I know some people have questions as to what the crowd looked like and what was the percentage of KU fans versus Iowa State fans. I tweeted this out yesterday, but I would say it was 55% KU, 45% Iowa State. It was almost 50-50, but I think there were more blue than what's their colors? Crimson and yellow and white, whatever it is. But there were more KU fans there, which I was honestly surprised by.
Considering how the season has gone.
KU fans show up. Yeah.
It was you said it was over 51,000 was what they said the attendance was. I thought that was impressive too. The fact that you got 50,000 people there, because we expected it to be like 30,000 Iowa State, 20,000 KU, and who knows how those numbers ended up. Yeah, it was great to see a somewhat full stadium in regards to what we thought was capable, especially the way. I mean, I think it's obvious the last 3 weeks KU is putting a better game together. I think we've scored 28 plus in 4 straight games now. So the offense is getting there. I don't think the defense is as bad as they've been talked about. I think they're bad in the most important moments. But I think some of that was you're tired. You're coming off of the offense letting you down. So you have to go out and get a stop. Yeah. But I thought they played pretty well. I don't think it gives me that much optimism or hope for the rest of the year because personally, the season's still a wash for me. So whether we end up bowl eligible or not, I'm not going to care that much. It would be great to be bowl eligible for third straight year because that's never happened in program history. But like Austin said, you got some tough games still down the stretch. Colorado is a good team despite the fact that their offensive line looks like 6th graders going up against the competition week in and week out. Shadur Sanders is fantastic. He's going to be a top pick in the NFL. Travis Hunter, as much as Mello Dotson and Kobe Bryant are really good, I would love to see how we slow him down. And then, of course, BYU on the road next week. Baylor is still a tough game, even though Baylor's not what they have been in the past. So you still got really tough 3 games down the stretch here. Are we going to be disappointed, or do we just not care anymore if they don't make it to a bowl game?
I'm going to be disappointed. I've flip-flopped back and forth on this season. There's been so many times where I've probably said on this podcast, yeah, I'm done. Let's glad basketball is back. Like, I know Spencer's happy basketball is back. It's like, yeah, let's get Spencer on the pod. Let's start talking more basketball. Like, it was done. And then K-State rolls around and it's like, oh, but if we win that game, and then we lost that game. So it's like, oh, we're really done. And now here we are beating a top 20 team in Iowa State. And man,
that's what's frustrating is assuming we go in and somehow beat BYU next week. That would have been 3 straight weeks of being a top 25 team. I don't think that's ever happened in program history ever before either. So that in itself would be impressive. They threw up the statistic that KU has the best point differential for a 2-win team. It was like plus 43 coming into that game, which is still crazy. Of course, 2 of that being in those 2 blowouts essentially. But
then the other ones were like minus 40. Like it was like insane. And
so it tells you that KU. I mean, again, we can go all day about this. Yeah. KU's right there. It's just they keep making mistakes in those games. All those games we've lost, they've had 4 or 5 mistakes, and you compile those up, you can't win games. You just can't give the other team that many opportunities to beat you. So we're right there. But yeah, to me, the season's still a waste. You've got the best running back in program history. Possibly you've got one of the most talented quarterbacks in program history, 2 of the better corners in program history. And you had all the excitement and anticipation coming the year, and you still look. Can you recover some of it? Maybe, I guess. But to me, it's the season. The second we lost, I think the second we went 1-3 going into conference. I think it was the West Virginia loss for me is when it's just the season was complete waste. So whether we go bowl eligible or not, I don't think changes the season necessarily. But yeah, if you can find a way to win out the last 3 games, I almost feel like fans are going to be more pissed if we win out because again, you'll look back and go, this should have been a Big 12 championship and potential college football playoff.
I'm going to be ecstatic, though. On the other end, I will be ecstatic because if we one more loss and then there's nothing that can sway me. The season's totally over. I want to get to the point where we have 3 bowl games back to back to back. You said it's never been done. I'm trying to break those kinds of records,
Yeah, bigger picture, that would be really cool. If you isolate this season alone,
Oh yeah,
disappointing, but bigger picture would be great. But
awful.
Anybody else got any other final thoughts before we get out of here on anything else?
I was going to say something. What was I going to say? If they somehow win out these next 3 games, I'll be ecstatic too. I mean, I also made a bet to myself that if KU wins out and makes a bowl game, see this beard right here? I trimmed it a little bit, but this mustache going to be gone. This beard's going to be gone because I said I'd clean shave my face if
Naked
they
face.
somehow win out.
Oh no.
It's okay. I haven't done that in 5 years. I just trim it. I don't shave it. I just trim my beard. But this beard's gonna be gone if they win out. I think they can do it. I mean, going back to that fourth quarter though, I was sweating as it started, and I was like, please God, don't let us have a meltdown. We nearly fumble it to start the fourth quarter. I was like, oh no, and then we missed the field goal. I'm like, great, here we go. Here comes Iowa State. They score 2 touchdowns, I believe, in the fourth quarter, and they get the 2-point conversion too. Iowa State fans in Arrowhead were like, "Oh my God, let's go!" And they were pretty loud. I will say that they were loud. And anytime they scored, anytime they had a big play, you could definitely feel it. You could hear it too. Lots of Iowa State fans were even in the student section too, and I think they were sitting in the wrong place because, a good thing we held on and won and kind of had a big lead towards the end. And after that pick 6, that's when all the Iowa State fans, left. So it was pretty satisfying to see them all leave. But I'm just relieved we won. But at the same time, I'm just like, I'm not going to get ahead of myself because we got 3 more games to go, and they're all tough.
Yeah.
I'd love that. Like Mello Dotson just waving goodbye.
Yeah, he was. I saw it on my way back. I went back and watched the highlight. I didn't realize he was waving by because I was too busy jumping around. Like, oh my God, we're gonna actually win this game.
That and then JD looking up to the fans, getting on the table after the game. I thought that was really, really cool because he deserved that moment. But I'd love to volunteer Spencer up for shaving his facial hair, but it took him so long in life to get some of that facial hair that it would be a tragedy if he had to.
What if JB had to shave his beard?
Never again.
That would be bad.
I will show
that
you
also
pictures.
hasn't happened in a long time.
I made a big mistake about 5 years ago doing it, and I looked like something I can't say on this podcast because we're nice Christian boys on this podcast.
I remember JB baby face.
Oh, I
face.
hated it.
Yeah, it's been a long time for sure. I'm the same way. I haven't, not that I have a thick beard by any means. I can't grow a thick one, but once you start growing facial hair, I don't think you can go back. I think you just got to keep it. But anyways, moving on, we'll wrap up there. Last thing I want to shout out real quick, the Toronto Jayhawks, Ochai Agbaji and Grady Dick off to a tremendous start this year. Grady's averaging 20 points a game. Ochai's stuffing the stat sheet, getting me tons of points on my fantasy basketball team.
Our league.
Hours away from taking JB down this week, so we'll see how that ends up. But yeah, shout out to those two. They look great. If only another former Jayhawk would get his butt on the court and actually play a game, calling you out, Joel Embiid. Maybe you should focus more on playing basketball instead of arguing with reporters. Not going to get into that, but just get yourself on the court. You make too much money to not be playing. But yeah, we'll end it there. Great weekend for KU sports, Chiefs. We'll have a lot more stuff kind of like we said every single week. So if you are checking us out here on the podcast for the first time or your 100th time, whatever the case may be, hit that like and subscribe button below so you can come back for all of our future episodes. If you like to listen on the go, you can check us out over on Spotify as well, where you can follow the podcast there, leave us a 5-star review. And of course, you can hit us up on any of our social media channels there listed below: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at KCSA Pod. Austin, look like you got a final thought there.
I have one more thing to say. I actually won a brand new pair of the KU Adidas shoes. Somebody on Twitter was in my comment section, and he said, if Iowa State loses to KU, I'll buy you a pair of the new KU Adidas shoes. And
nice.
I'm getting a new pair of shoes soon, guys. Sweet. I can't wait.
I guess shout out.
I meant to bring that's what I was trying to say earlier, but now it came back to mind. But I'm getting a new pair of shoes. I can't wait to get them.
I guess with that, I've already tweeted the guy that won. But shout out to our listener Bob Noller. He was the winner of the JD 6 signed autographed jersey. Hopefully that gets to you. I'm trying to get it shipped out. Hopefully I get it to you this week. But for those of you that didn't win that one, we still have a Devin Neal signed jersey that we will be giving away, especially now that he has taking over the top spot in program history for the rushing totals. So we'll have a whole, like I said, we'll have a separate episode on Devin Neal to give him his time to shine, and we'll talk about that giveaway then. But that'll wrap it up for this one. Big week ahead. We got Champions Classic Tuesday night, Michigan State. We got KU BYU on the road next weekend, and then Duke is looming in the distance, and Cooper Flag is ready to take on a top tier program, and we're ready to welcome into college basketball. That'll wrap it up for this one. Thank you guys for checking us out, and as always, rock chalk.
Rock chalk.
Rock chalk.